Fall craft ideas, primitive grunge lights? Let me show you how. The other day, I made a primitive grunge candle using Mod Podge and cinnamon. If you missed it, look up there. I'll leave the link. And you can make an awesome, cute little rusty tin candle holder for the primitive fall decor in your home. I'm going to show you a few ways briefly how I melt my wax. This came from the thrift store, and this came from the thrift store, and this came from the thrift store. What Ray and I like to do during the winter, we melt down our big blocks of wax that we got from upstate New York for my birthday, probably a decade and a half ago, maybe even longer. Because for this project today, we're going to be adding cinnamon and cloves and spices. So I don't want to do it the normal way. What we like to do is melt it and put it in molds that will fit right into the container that fits into the candle warmer. This way I can turn it on early in the morning, a couple hours later, it will be melted down. I don't have to worry about it catching on fire. You can also put hot water in the bottom of the candle holder and then put this in, turn it on, and it will take its sweet time melting down. This pot is for when I want to do a lot of candle projects, like for this mold. And I don't need to color it or just put any other spices in it. That one I just plug in the morning, and a few hours later it's good and melted for me. I like to have a designated tool from the Dollar Tree when I do this project that I'm going to do today with the wax and the cinnamon and the cloves. You want to always keep it stirred because they will settle to the bottom, and they need to be stirred right before you apply them to the LED tea light. For this can, I also got from the thrift store. We have a mold, I don't even know what we use, and we melt them into manageable size chunks. That in there. When it starts to melt, we'll add another one, and another one, and another one until it's all melted. If I were to put the big block in there like this, it takes a lot longer. I just like doing it this way. Now this needs to be put on a burner or a pot of hot water when this is placed in it. I don't ever put my wax directly under a flame. Even with the electric hot plate, I always will put this in a jacket of water. That's how I melt my wax. Anytime working with wax, these Teflon sheets are invaluable. Wax will peel right off, it will save your table. I have a very old primitive table, even though it's old, I don't want wax on it. So if you're going to be working with wax, cinnamon, paints, whatever, this is the greatest tool to have, and it's only a few dollars. I'll leave the link below. For this project, you will need LED lights. You can get them from the Dollar Tree, but I prefer the better ones that I get from Amazon. I'll leave the link below. I noticed a lot of the times the ones from the Dollar Tree do not last that long, and if I'm going to go through all this work, I'd like them to last. And these are really nice. These are the white. They don't have the blinking colors, blue, purples. I don't care for any of those. And what I like about these, you can change the battery. Again, I'm going through all this work of grunging them, putting the Mod Podge and cinnamon, or today's project will be melted beeswax with the spices. I want them to last quite a long time. So it's up to you if you want to just do them quickly and get rid of them, and when they die, or you can spend a little bit of money and get the better ones. You can use a Dollar Tree sponge brush, because the first thing you're going to do once your beeswax gets melted, you're going to add the spices, stir it really well. We're going to put a thin coat all the way around this. We're going to let it dry thoroughly, and then we're going to do it again. And then once it gets a good base of melted wax, then we're going to drizzle it on rather thickly and grungy. And then we can either hit it more with cinnamon or just leave it the way it is. But this will make a really nice grunge candle doing it this way. So let the wax melt. I'm going to put water down in the vessel. Be sure and stop by the blog. I'll leave the link up there for the many uses for candle warmers. I picked these up from a thrift store. I probably have 4 or 5 of them. I use them a lot of time to infuse my herbs into oil for when I'm making homemade soap, or even for cooking oils that are flavored with herbs. Check it out. You might be surprised. I went ahead and added hot water, filled it up to here, and then the weight brought the water up. So you just take some duct tape, cut off a piece about 4 inches. It's my African gray. And then I'm just gonna cut it down the center. Dollar Tree scissors, so I don't get stickies on my good scissors. Yes, God bless you, honey. And then I gauge about how wide it is. Then I just take it so I can look down the center. And then I just take my finger and push like that. And I cut off the little lip. Now if you think you're gonna get a little bit on top, just put a little tip on it, just like that. And there you have it. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't even have to do this if you don't want to. It just gives it a little bit more that you can work with. Actually, it gives you something you can hold on to. And we're back. I got a little impatient and I put my $5 electric hot plate that I got from the thrift store on, which is great. When you see that it's a little bit not melted on the side, that's good because you don't want it all melted and that it won't stick to the plastic LED light. This is approximately, it's about 3/4 cup of melted beeswax. I'm gonna add enough cinnamon. I'm gonna start with probably 2 tablespoons. Give it a stir. It smells heavenly already. I'm gonna give the rest of this. This is last year's. This is old. This is allspice. This is probably a good rounded teaspoon. And I'm gonna give a little bit of cloves. Probably a rounded teaspoon. You wanna give this a good stir. This is such a small batch that I'm not going to use this. Give it a really good stir because all the spices tend to go to the bottom. Right before you apply this, you want to ensure that it's really stirred well. Get a good grip on the tea light, stir well, and then start applying it. Don't go back and try to fill it in. Let it dry before you start adding layer upon layer. Once you basically got the first coat on, let it sit and start the next candle. You can use a foam brush, but I find it's better just to use a large tongue depressor. Give a good grip on where it's taped. This is just the first coat of 2 or 3 coats, so it really doesn't matter. Always stir every time you dip because all the cinnamon tends to go to the bottom. Get inside, dump it out. Some inside, dump it out. Let me get all 3 done with the first coat and then I'll be back. Now I find that I want it to be a little bit darker. I'm gonna add probably another tablespoon of cinnamon from the Dollar Tree. I don't use the good organic stuff. You wanna give this a good stir. Stir it well. And don't worry about that. You can go ahead and hit it. You'll catch it on the second coat. I can already see this is the color that I really like. Dark chestnut brown. And don't worry about these. The dark brown will cover over it. We're just trying to establish a base coat. I even did 1 base coat in plain wax, no color, and you can't even tell which one it was. And every now and then I have to set it down to rotate it. Put some in, dump it out, and then you go back to the very first one you started. If it's not cool enough, let them cool a few minutes before you start again, because if you put this hot wax on, like I can feel this is still very warm, it will start to pull it off. But see how pretty it's looking? This is what you want to look. You don't have to get this good in the first go around. See how this just peels right off? Wax will not stick to this. All right, this feels good. What I'm gonna do is try to get where I didn't get the first time and put that down. So when I do the second coat, it's 100% covered. That one looks good. All right, I'm gonna let that sit a few minutes and then we'll be back. Meanwhile, you wanna stir this. They smell so good. I have even taken the candle and plunged it in and then immediately took my fingernail and did the switch. I cleared the switch. Now, the only thing with that, when it comes time to change in the battery, you'll have to scrape this off, heat it with a very light heat gun or a blow dryer and scrape it off so you can get to the battery. I just did this because I wanted to show you it can be done. Same thing when it comes time, you'll just peel this off and you'll get to the battery compartment. Give a stir every single time. I like this method because once it cools and dries, unlike the cinnamon Mod Podge, which could come off when you touch it, you can store this for till next year and you don't have to worry about the wax coming off. You can let this drip like a real candle like this. I wouldn't suggest doing that until the whole thing is coated with the color that you trying to achieve. You can go back on the 3rd step. Right now we're trying to achieve making sure no undertones are showing. Once I coat the inside, I don't go back and do many more coats. It only needs to be coated once on the inside, unless you have white showing. I will leave this right in there so the next time I want to make grungy candles. This is 55 cents. It's designated just for cinnamon spice grunge candles. When you're finally getting to the last drips, this is when you would drip it like icing on a warm cake and just let it drip naturally. And that tape really comes in handy. My suggestion, don't overthink it, don't overdo it, because you're just going to create a mess on top of a mess on top of a mess. Biggest thing is you don't want really any white spots like that. Let it look naturally. That one's done. I'm very pleased with it. You want to go from overhead and let it drip straight down on the final shot. Beautiful. That one's done. Don't worry about when you take the tape off. If you see a little white in there, you can go right in right now and do that. And that is it. Look how beautiful that is. Just roll it around, let it dry, and that is done. And when you pull it off, if the wax comes up a little bit, take your stick and work it back down. Roll it around, a little white spot down in that hole where the tape was, and it just so happens the very last one gave me a little hard time. Everyone in the crafter in the world should have a good pair of hemostats. I use these every day, but that's it. I think that looks beautiful. Don't overdo it. The more you touch, the more it's gonna not look great. And you want different colors. You don't want them all the same. You want variety of color so it looks really natural. This does need a little bit more. Give a stir, shake it off, and they are beautiful. We're gonna come back. I'm gonna let these cool 15 minutes. I don't wanna go in and touch them anymore, and we'll be back in 15 minutes. I'm gonna let this stay heated just in case I need to do any touch-ups. And I'm going to show you a few ways how I decorate in a prim fall fashion. Actually, it can be used any time of the year. Now, one final note, when you get all done, when you think it's done, flip on the switch and then hold it up. And if there's any really light spots, go back and hit it. That's why I left the beeswax on. But I'm pretty pleased with them, and I don't need to go back. Beautiful, but don't go back until it's been dry about 15 minutes. Then put the light on and see if there's any light spots that you want to go back and cover. And here they are, all finished. These are the cans that I did in the faux tin rusty video. Look up there, I'll leave the link. This one, I took an old muffin pan that I got 2 weeks ago from the thrift store, I think for $1.50. And I just put some berries on it. And I swapped this one out too. Now the one by the fireplace is another of the muffin tins. This one I just inverted. I put corn silk in it, drilled a hole, put a wire on it, put some dried berries and 4 little pumpkins, and that is hung at my fireplace. And there you have it. So easy. You can do this with tapered candles that you get from the Dollar Tree. You can just keep applying the wax, or you can roll it in wax and hit it with cinnamon. Any way you'd like to. Have fun. Please hit the subscribe button. Most important, please share on social media, and I'll see you on the next video. This is Jersey saying thank you and have an awesome day.